Hey, thanks for checking us out, guys. Tobin here with you. Much appreciated. Hey, Tobin and Leroy show coming at you weekdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Check us on out. Join the silly sauce. And I appreciate you. Very, very excited for the Heat and Celtics to get going on Wednesday night. Just got done. I'm recording this right after game one of the Western Conference Finals got done as the Denver Nuggets held off the LA Lakers, who made a little bit of a late rally. They win 132 to 126. Monster performance from Nikola Jokic tonight. 34 points, 21 rebounds, and 14 assists. Just an absolute killer. Anthony Davis was no slouch with a 40 and 10 tonight. So I think that's going to be a fun series because it looked like it was going to go a little bit Denver's way, and the Lakers had a pretty furious rally there. They got it to within 3. LeBron had a 3 to tie it, and they fell just short, but that looks like it's going to be a fun series. Leroy and I have a little wager on it. I took Nuggets. He took Lakers. We got an Empanada Friday riding on it. But let's turn our attention to the, as I've been telling you guys, the task at hand. The task at hand is the Boston Celtics. Third Eastern Conference Finals in 4 years. I think we've heard that term now for hundreds of times over the last 4 days. It has been a lot of days. It's a lot of days to rest up. Big benefit for Jimmy Butler to get that leg healthy. It was good to see him out and about in town where he's doing his big vase coffee thing, and now you get a couple of days of practice where the Heat are really just zoning in on their prep. Although there was a couple of things that I found interesting listening, because I was listening to some Boston Celtics media today, and it was interesting hearing Malcolm Brogden. He had a couple of interesting things to say, and I want to get to one that kind of pissed me off. Not pissed me off, but it definitely piqued my it made me like perk up a little bit. But Malcolm Brogdon said an interesting thing about their team today, where he said that their practice was a little bit loose, and that they needed Al Horford to kind of rein him in to get to the seriousness of it. And meanwhile, for the Heat, Spo was talking about just like, we don't need to do any of that stuff. It was all just prep. Let's do what we got to do for the game plan. And I do think that is an interesting thing going into this. I think that much has been made about the experience difference between Joe Mazzulla and Eric Spoelstra, which I kind of think is an overrated storyline, to be honest with you. I think that the Boston media is much more worried about Mazzulla's inexperience and have been ripping him. And, I don't watch a lot of Joe Mazzulla press conferences. I can already tell this dude friggin' hates Boston media. I mean, he's so done with all their questions as it is. And I will say that it's just a much more aggressive style up there than it is down here. It's not the same, and I do think that, you've had, this is a team that has, 2 beat reporters, 2 beat reporters who are on the road with them, 3 to 4 guys who cover every single home game. And, it's just, these guys have known Spo for a long time. It's just a much more respectable, I guess, working environment. Mazzulla just seems like he's so done with Boston media. And, hearing what some of them have said about him going into this, guy's an experience, deer in headlights, Look, man, the guy's got him in the Eastern Conference Finals. Guy made an adjustment in series. I'm always going to take Eric Spoelstra. Don't get me wrong. I think Spo's a wizard and a maniac. But I honestly think that some of Spo's best work was just keeping everything even keeled to get here. I really do. And I think that you'll see those adjustments in game that he's going to make. People made plenty of, Mike Budenholzer and the lack of adjustments that he made and the bad timeouts. And certainly Spo was even confused in some of the stuff that he was done, according to Max Strus when he was on the Levitard show. But, I thought that for him, just understanding, getting his team to play so competitive in a game, in a series against the Knicks, where it was a lot about that little stuff, those inside plays. And, that just speaks to, how Spo can get these guys motivated. I don't believe that Joe Mazzulla can't get his players motivated. So while I do think the Heat have a coaching edge, I don't necessarily know if it is a series swinger. I do think that it is going to come down to the players. But this is a long-winded way of getting back to my point about hearing that comment today from Malcolm Brogden that Al Horford is the guy who has to really rein stuff in. It was interesting because I just feel like Jimmy Butler is not only the best player on this team, but I do feel like everybody is just following his lead. I feel like his intensity trickle down is so palpable with everybody on this roster. And respect to Al Horford. I mean, the guy's been around forever and he's done a lot, but he's not the best player on that team. And I think that while, yes, for the Heat, Udonis Haslem is like the emotional leader. I think they've given a lot of that stuff to like Kevin Love of lead us, Kevin, take us there. There's no tone setting that needs to be, honed in. Jimmy Butler brings that to the table and is going to bring that game in and game out. And I do think that some of the inconsistencies that we have seen from Boston, it was just something that kind of stood out to me hearing Malcolm Brogdon bring that up today. I don't know if it's going to make a difference, if it's not going to make a difference, but it definitely stood out to me that he admitted something like that Al Horford had to get everybody on the same page today and get everybody, tuned in to a practice right before the Eastern Conference Finals. It just kind of stood out to me a little bit. But Jimmy was talking about this today, about how he likes how the teammates feed off of his confidence, which right now, sky high.
I think so, yeah. They hear the way that I talk. They hear the way that I go about everything. I back down from no challenge, so therefore we back down from no challenge. We take everything a day at a time. I speak for all of us when I say we're so grateful to be able to do what we do every single day and be around the guys and the coaches in the organization, the ownership that we do have. So we're comfortable, we're confident, but we realize it's not going to be easy. We will say that. But confident, I don't think that's the thing that any of us lack.
Goosies, dude, and well deserved and understood that. Yeah, that team is playing with just uber extreme confidence right now, and he leads the way with that. I mean, we see this with when he gets going, just the emotional passion that he has, almost a nastiness that he displays, especially on the guys defending him one-on-one, that he starts torturing, and he'll start talking just such trash. I don't know if we necessarily see that from the guys in Boston. I think that Tatum has definitely a much more calm, quiet confidence about him. Jimmy Butler likes to rub it in your face, man. He really, really does. But Jimmy is ready for this one, man, and he has talked about that that everything emotions wise, that things are sky high right now with their with how they're feeling and how they're swaggering into this series. And now you get a lot of rest, which is a huge benefit, I think, as well, especially for that ankle of his. And this is really going to be an interesting thing because the rest will be, I think, an interesting factor on this because it is every other day after this game. There are no multiple day breaks. So you wonder if that puts it doesn't feel like there should be a lot of pressure in a game one for Miami, but knowing that, not so much the idea of, Boston had to play on Sunday, but just the idea of I don't know if you'll get Kevin, Kyle, Jimmy this fresh until, you advance, or if you're able to advance. But Jimmy is saying, once again, the confidence remains sky high, and especially the way they go about their business with the whole elements of this team and their Heat culture.
Yeah, it's real. But I think more than anything, it's just the belief that we have in one another, the belief that you must have in yourself to realize how special you can be in this league, in this moment, in this organization. I think everybody's bought into that. Everybody's confident. I don't even know if overconfident is what you would call it, but it's a thing, and our guys are playing some incredible basketball. So that Heat culture, the confidence that Heat culture instills in each and every one of us is very real.
Oh, Goosies, dude. Oh, so Goosies. I love it. I love it so much, Jimmy Butler. Oh. Goosies. Anyway, their confidence is sky high going into this one, and I'm excited about it, man. I can't wait for the series to get going. Seeing a lot of the national pundits, there's a couple things that have stood out. ESPN, their analytics department, has given Miami a 3 to 4% chance. You have seen some graphics; it seems to be fluctuating there. Miami is, I think, plus 400 on the series, so they're a 4-1 underdog going into this, which could also fluctuate. They do their ESPN picks. I believe Sedano, shout out to Jorge Sedano, only only a few that picked the Miami Heat. I believe Bobby Marks, Sedano picked him in 7. Bobby Marks picked the Heat in 6. So the cap guru giving a little respect to Heat culture. And look, man, it is gonna be an interesting series. I think that these teams do know each other well. There's some different elements to each of them. Certainly with Boston, everybody talks about their depth, and they talk about the Malcolm Brogdons of the world that they bring in there, and adds. They just have so much shooting on that team. That's something that really hasn't shifted from last year. That they have a lot of guys who can hit a lot of threes. I mean, there's not really a guy in their lineup, I guess you would say, other than Robert Williams, who can't put it up from downtown, and they feel confident. Whether it be Marcus Smart on one of his hot nights, we know Brown, we know Tatum, we know Horford. All of those guys are quite capable. The only thing that I think is interesting about it, though, is people talk about the depth of both of these teams, and I get what they're going with there, but one of the things that's been interesting is that Mazzulla hasn't necessarily gone fully into his bench. Like, he's pretty much stuck with a pretty tight playoff rotation, meaning he's just going with, Brogdon, who's obviously coming off the bench, and then the switch that they've made to Derek White, where Derek White is gone from the starting lineup and they switched him for Time Lord. And so those have been the guys. Like in Game 6, those were the only 7 guys who played until it was out of hand. It's basically how it was in Game 7 too, whereas Eric Spoelstra not doing that. Eric Spoelstra has pretty much maintained. He is going with his starting lineup, but off the bench, you're going to get Kyle Lowry. You're going to get Duncan Robinson. You're going to get Cody Zeller. You're going to get Caleb Martin. And so you're going to get 9, maybe 10 guys, because this could definitely be a series we had seen in the regular season. Haywood Highsmith having a lot of success on a guy like Jason Tatum. So you could see even the locksmith come in there and get some minutes. So while I get it, maybe you would go, and I think a lot of pundits would say, well, their 1 through 7 is bar none better, but they don't really play Grant Williams, who was a much bigger factor in last year's team. And everybody else kind of just sits on their ass right now. And they got to be a little bit happier with the health of Robert Williams going into this, much like I think the Heat are probably going to be a lot happier with the health of Kyle Lowry going into this series. Tyler Hero not being there, it sucks, but Tyler Hero did not have a good Eastern Conference Finals last year. He did not really have a good playoffs last year, especially after those last couple of games, after the first couple of games in the Philadelphia series, really tailed off. Then he was dealing with an injury. He played in Game 7 barely because Spo was like an all hands on deck thing, but he was not effective. The whole plan was really to have him back, ironically, for the NBA Finals, which maybe when he returns, if the Heat can get past this round. But the top 2 guys are the top 2 guys, Bam and Jimmy, and Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Those are the 2 heads of the snake. And it's going to be interesting. It sounds like they're going to stick with their starting lineup with their bigs in there. So it is going to be interesting to see where they're going to throw on those guys. At what point will you see Jimmy on there? What point will you see Caleb Martin in there doing his thing? What is going to be the decision on using Bam and how they use him? And, how does that dictate along as the series goes on? Those are going to be, there's going to be a lot of interesting adjustments in this series. And I think both coaches do have some switches that they can go to in this entire ordeal, and I'm looking forward to it, man. This is going to be a fun series. But there was one thing that really stood out to me before I get to my prediction here, which I will get to. Malcolm Brogdon had this to say about the Miami Heat, and he was asked about what they bring to the table, and just had a little throwaway line at the end here, which kind of just perked up my ears. And I was like, oh, all right.
They're physical, they're versatile, they shoot the ball at a high level, and they got a superstar in Jimmy that's playing like one of the best players in the world. So on top of that, they have a great coach and staff. So they're a well-rounded group. that out toughs most teams they play. But that's not going to happen with us.
All right. Big words from Malcolm Brogden. They are not going to out tough us, which, look, man, I think you could say a lot of things in this series. You could go in there and you could talk about Boston having more talent, Boston's 2 being better than Miami's 2, Tatum being better than Jimmy. But throwing out there, just going into this, that they're not going to out tough us. Man, if there wasn't bulletin board material, if I was Eric Spoelstra, I would throw that right into the middle of the locker room and say, hey, boys, you hear this one? You hear this? Because I would say for Boston and their toughness, probably one of the things that's been lacking for them going in through this playoff run, their inconsistency, their laissez-fairness, their on again, off again switch, maybe an arrogance that they have walked through this postseason with. And thankfully for them, they took on 2 of the biggest choke artists this side of NBA history with Joel Embiid and James Harden. So, you know, and then before that, they you know, basically got a scaring them from the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks made them sweat. And so if you're the Miami Heat and you had just did what you did to the title favorites in the Milwaukee Bucks, diced through them, out-toughed them, broke them, and then you took on the all dirty gritty team in the New York Knicks and beat them at their own game. And now Malcolm Brogdon's just going to throw out there to the media, oh, they just out-tough teams, but they're not going to do that to us. Okay, Malcolm Brogdon, but listen here, dude. You guys are like a minus 500 favorite. Don't lose. Don't lose if that's the case. If you think that you're going to out-tough them, you got all those elements that are better than them, don't lose. It's all there for you. I mean, like, you guys have been the belle of the ball anyway. Everybody thinks you guys are the title favorites now. They're not believing in the Joker. They're not believing in LeBron. It's all Celtics, baby. And now you're telling them not only are you more talented, but you think you're not going to get out-toughed by the Miami Heat. Don't lose. Very interesting that he wanted to throw that last line out there. And if I were the Miami Heat, I would be throwing that into Bam's locker, which, by the way, a little bit of dismissiveness from Bam. I noticed from the start today, Jaylen Brown not really mentioning him unprovoked, not really unsolicited. Malcolm not mentioning him unsolicited. I hope Bam notices that, man, because I thought Bam really turned a corner in this Knicks series. You know, Bam had some real struggles, especially offensively, since the All-Star break. And since that game 5 in Milwaukee, where he has his first career triple-double, and then really after that game 2, where he took the game where Jimmy was out and he really took all the blame on that game, I think he's been incredible. I mean, he's been, you know, we know what a wonder he is defensively, but rebounding, all the boxing out, and dunking on everybody's head. I hope you notice this, Bam. I feel like they're sleeping on you, man. I feel like the Celtics are sleeping on you. I feel like the nation is sleeping on you. And Jimmy Buckets, I think we know Jimmy's going to do what he does. I think that, you know, you could hear that his confidence is sky high. Kyle Lowry's been playing amazing. I think Max Strus, Gabe Vincent not only playing at a high level, but know that they got a whole lot of money coming their way after this postseason run. Caleb Martin's been tremendous. Kevin Love has been that secondary leader who has brought the experience, the tenacity, has kind of brought the locker room together in a lot of ways from a harmonious standpoint. Look, man, I think for 13, I think this could be a big one for him. And my official prediction, Miami Heat win this series in 6. I think their formula has been their formula. You take home court advantage in these first 2 games. Taking it in the first game would be absolutely dynamite, but you split those first 2 games, you go back and you protect your home court. That's been the formula the entire way. And I think they do it again. I think that they split these first couple of games. They take 3 and 4. They go back to Boston with a 3-1 lead. I'm sure Boston will show some pride, extend it to 6. And where it all went wrong last year and you lost on your home floor, this will be the year you get to redeem it and close it out at the Kaseya Center. So that's my prediction. Heat in 6. Can't wait for this ride to start on Wednesday night.